Collie in the southwest is just one in that situation. Here's a grandmother telling her story to the ABC's Michael Black.
My name's Glynis, and I'm a mother of 3 children and a grandmother of 8. And it's been a real challenge and tiring. It's wearing to have somebody who's addicted to drugs, especially when they don't understand that they really have got a problem and they won't admit it. That's worse than anything else. My son actually has had many addictions. The very first one was actually marijuana, and that helped him then to get into other drugs. And yes, he did try meth, and he's tried other cocktails of drugs as well, and has landed himself in some very deep water.
Now, Collie's Christ of Church pastor David Carr says ICE is having a domino effect in the town, and to help, he's organised a forum this Friday to talk about the issue. The guest speaker will be the CEO and founder of Shalom House, Peter Lyndon-James. Now, Shalom House is known as having one of the strictest rehab services in the country, and if your family's struggling with this situation, Peter's happy to take your call and actually provide some help. So if you'd like to get some advice, if you're in this terrible situation a lot of families seem to find themselves in, where you've got a family member or a friend that is being affected by drug addiction, 1300 545 222 or 0448 922 604. Peter, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Now, you've had your own experience with drug addiction. Can you take us through a bit of a history of your own struggles?
Yeah, well, I actually spent 26 years in and out of prisons and institutions and caught up in a life of addiction from the age of 9. I come sort of from a dysfunctional family where I got put in the children's homes, kept running away from the children's homes. Eventually they got sick of me running away, so they put me in a locked facility called Longmore. I mean, there I met a lot of kids who had stories like mine that come from a broken home, and when I got out of there, they were doing things I never used to do, and I started doing what they did in broken houses and cars and drugs. So I basically spent 26 years of institutions and prisons. I spent 6 years in Longmore, 2 years in Riverbank. I've also done time in all the prisons in Western Australia. And my last prison term was in 2010, where I was selling an average of 2.5 kilos of methamphetamines a day and lots of drugs and guns and a lot of silly stuff. So I've probably been normal now for around 15 years.
What about the secret for you to try and get out of an addiction, and particularly so a very long addiction? What was it?
Well, it's not as easy as just saying stop using drugs. I mean, if I look back at my 26 years of institutions and prisons, even when I wasn't in prison, I was still in prison. I think the starting point is wanting to have a genuine desire to want to change. I think that was the starting point. Even when I wasn't in prison, I was still in prison. Every time I tried to hang around the geeks or the normal people, I felt like I was a weed that didn't belong. But every time I did try, it just didn't work. I went back to where I was. At 2001, I got out of prison. At the time, I was selling 2.5 kilos of methamphetamines, drugs and guns, and I had what you would call a divine encounter, where it turned my life around. I went back into prison, got out of prison, and then I went to done 3 years full-time study at Riverview Bible College, and I became a volunteer prison chaplain for 5 years, and now I run probably the largest and strictest rehabilitation centre in Australia. We've been going 4 years now. We have 72 men about to go to 90. We have 22 staff across 9 properties, and we're 100% self-funded, and we're actually working at restoring the lives of men and families in our community.
It's 4:12 here on ABC Radio WA. My guest, Peter Lyndon-James, CEO and founder of Shalom House. We're talking about trying to break that cycle of addiction. And if you'd like to ask, Peter's been through his own battles with addiction. If you'd like to ask him a question, 1300 545 222 or 0448 922 604. Shalom House, Peter, is known as the strictest in Australia. Tell us, where does the strictness lie?
Well, I'm really, really strict, Barry. I have a no tolerance to a lot of stuff. I take 1 out of every 20 people who ring me, but I only want to help those who are really, really serious about doing whatever it takes to change. You can actually class addiction in 5 categories. There's an A, a B, a C, a D and an E. And just like that grandmother you put on a second ago, she said that her grandson actually started with cannabis. Most of the time it starts with cannabis. That's an A. One voice says don't do it, one voice says do it, you do it. And you hear this voice, it's okay, I'm not hurting anybody. You can't see by your actions, by you just smoking something, that you actually have an effect on somebody else. And if a person believes a lie is a truth, that lie becomes a truth, and they become a B. We want people at ease when they hit the brick wall at the bottom of the bottom of the bottom, and 1 out of every 20 that come to us, we tell them there's no smoking, no swearing, no gossip, no TV, no radio, no newspapers. We work from Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. We are really, really strict.
What happens on the weekend?
Weekend we do activities, sports, recreation, golf. Believe it or not, we do ice skating and roller skating, and we do Cuddly Animal Farm. We just do everything that normal people in society would do. I've got a saying, you can take the prisoner out of prison, but then you've got to get out of the prisoner. It's not as easy as just saying stop using drugs. When you're dealing with a person who's had 20 years of addiction and you take away their coping mechanism, you've got to teach them how to think, how to speak, how to act, how to respond, how to express how they feel, how to deal with conflict. And we've got to teach them how to deal with the everyday pressures of life without a substance to fix their problem.
What do you say to people who say, look, going cold turkey is not the way for me?
If you continue to spare a person from the consequence of their choices, that person will never learn. And please forgive me for being frank, but the idiot that's actually got themselves in the pickle, they're the ones they are because of the decisions they've made. It's lots of fun. Myself personally, I had a lot of fun sleeping with prostitutes. I had a lot of fun staying up for 16 days. I had a lot of fun doing what I was doing. And most addicts would all agree, hey, it's lots of fun. I don't think it's okay for a person to rock up an organisation and say, I'll finish having fun. This is how I want you to fix me. Now fix me. I don't think that's okay. I think that the withdrawal process and the detox process should be part of the rehabilitation. Go through what you're about to go through. Just remember, please don't do it again.
What do you say to families out there listening who might be dealing with this and don't know the first step, if you like, in trying to help someone?
I think personally families are a major part of the problem, and in some instances are no better than the drug dealer selling the drugs. And that's got you a bit quiet there, hasn't it? Well, often families think they're doing the right thing, but in actual fact they're doing the wrong thing. Often with families, especially with methamphetamines, they're not qualified to help them in the way that they want to, but they are qualified to help them in the way that they need to. If we continue to spare people from the consequence of the choices, they'll never learn. If I was to hold up 5 fingers, each one of those 5 fingers represents options. If the first finger is the decision to change your life, well, hey, that's the best one. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I specialise in 2 things. The first thing is providing a safe place for the person to change their life. The second thing I specialise in, and specialise again is a big word, is showing families how to bring a person to the point of wanting to make the decision to change because they want to make the decision to change, not because somebody else wants them to. You've got to remember an addict is having a lot of fun doing what they're doing, but it's like getting a sheep down into a pen. Those 5 fingers, the first one is your mum and dad. The second one's your wife with 2 kids. The next one's the decision to change life with your brother and sister. And what generally happens, he will never make the decision to change his life as long as his wife continues to spare him. She knows that she should have left. In her brain, she says, I can't leave. Who's going to pay the mortgage? Who's going to look after the kids? I never thought I'd be a single wife. Eventually, he becomes an E, ends the big finale. He gets escorted off the property. The wife leaves. Mum and dad can't stand to see him on the streets. They bring him into the house. And everything that happens to the wife now happens to mum and dad. They bring unforgiveness, bitterness, resentment. Then mum and dad get taken out. Then brother and sister. 20 years later, then I get them. So what I do is I calibrate the families. I get them all on the same page. And I show them how to speed up the process. Why take 20 years of addiction when you can knock it on the head in 2?
What about compassion? Where does that
There is
fit?
compassion. It's love. It's cause and effect. If you touch a hot plate, you burn your finger. We're supposed to bring up our children in the way that they'll go so they'll not depart from it. My son, 14, I've got 3 children. My son at the age of 14. One day he said, Dad, can I go out? And I said, no, you can't, son. And I seen him stick his chest out and he challenged my authority. I thought, oh, it's truth, I've never seen that before. The next day I sat my son down and I said, Son, yesterday you challenged my authority and that's not okay. But I recognise, son, that you want to learn to be a man. I recognise, son, that I've done my job up to this point. And now, son, I've got to actually hand responsibility of your life over to you. From this day forward, son, the relationship between me and you changes. I will always be there for you, son. Not in the way that you want me to, but in the way that I need to. From this day forward, son, this is me and your mum's home. We've worked for this home. We want to retire here. If you want to live in this house, we want love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, honesty, integrity. We want a good atmosphere in this home, son. As long as you want to contribute to this atmosphere, you are always welcome here, but it's our home.
All right. Peter Lyndon-James, thank you very much. Appreciate you coming on this afternoon. Peter is the CEO and founder of Shalom House, and if you're in Collie and you want to find out more about the Meth Forum, it's going to be held on Friday night at the Margaretta Wilson Centre between 7 to 9 p.m. You can RSVP. The number is 97341361. That's 97341361. Or you can give us a call here at the station if you need some more detail.